Thank you very much. Last night, I returned from a historic 12-day trip to Asia. This journey took us to 5 nations to meet with dozens of foreign leaders, participate in 3 formal state visits, and attend 3 key regional summits. It was the longest visit to the region by an American president in more than a quarter of a century. Everywhere we went, our foreign hosts greeted the American delegation, myself included, with incredible warmth, hospitality, and most importantly, respect. And this great respect showed very well our country is further evidence that America's renewed confidence and standing in the world has never been stronger than it is right now. When we are confident in ourselves, our strength, our flag, our history, our values, other nations are confident in us. And when we treat our citizens with the respect they deserve, other countries treat America with the respect that our country so richly deserves. During our travels, this is exactly what the world saw: a strong, proud, and confident America. Today, I want to update the American people on the tremendous success of this trip and the progress we've made to advance American security and prosperity throughout the year. When I came into office, our country was faced with a series of growing dangers. These threats included rogue regimes pursuing deadly weapons, foreign powers challenging America's influence, the spread of the murderous terror group ISIS, and years of unfair trade practices that had dangerously depleted our manufacturing base and wiped out millions and millions of middle-class jobs. The challenges were inherited, and these products really showed what previous mistakes were made over many years and even decades by other administrations. Some of these mistakes were born of indifference and neglect, others from naive thinking and misguided judgment. In some cases, the negative influence of partisan politics and special interests was to blame. But the one common thread behind all of these problems was a failure to protect and promote the interests of the American people and American workers. Upon my inauguration, I pledged that we would rebuild America, restore its economic strength, and defend its national security. With this goal in mind, I vowed that we would reaffirm old alliances and form new friendships in pursuit of shared goals. Above all, I swore that in every decision, with every action, I would put the best interests of the American people first. Over the past 10 months, traveling across the globe and meeting with world leaders, that is exactly what I have done. Earlier this year in Saudi Arabia, I spoke to the leaders of more than 50 Arab and Muslim nations about our strategy to defeat terrorists by stripping them of financing, territory, and ideological support. And I urge the leaders to drive out the terrorists and extremists from their societies. Since that time, we have dealt ISIS one crushing defeat after another. In Israel, I reaffirmed the unbreakable bond between America and the Jewish state, and I met with leaders of the Palestinian Authority and initiated an effort to facilitate lasting peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. In Brussels, I urged our NATO allies to do more to strengthen our crucial alliance and set the stage for significant increases in member contributions. Billions and billions of dollars are pouring in because of that initiative. NATO, believe me, is very happy with Donald Trump and what I did. In Warsaw, I declared to the world America's resolve to preserve and protect Western civilization and the values we hold so dear. In Rome, Sicily, Hamburg, and Paris, I strengthened our friendships with key allies to promote our shared interests of security and prosperity. In September, at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, I urged that the nations of the world join in confronting rogue regimes that threaten humanity and laid out a model for international cooperation grounded in respect for sovereignty and the responsibilities that come with it. On each trip, I have worked to advance American interests and leadership in the world. And to each of these places, I have carried our vision for a better, a vision for something stronger and sovereign, so important, sovereign and independent nations rooted in their histories, confident in their destinies, and cooperating together to advance their security, prosperity, and the noble cause of peace. It was this same vision that I carried to Asia 2 weeks ago. And it was this same commitment to you, the American people, that was always at the forefront of my mind and my thinking. Our trip was defined by 3 core goals. First, to unite the world against the nuclear menace posed by the North Korean regime, a threat that has increased steadily through many administrations and now requires urgent action. Second, to strengthen America's alliances and economic partnerships in a free and open Indo-Pacific, made up of thriving independent nations respectful of other countries and their own citizens, and safe from foreign domination and economic servitude. And third, to finally, after many years, insist on fair and reciprocal trade. Fair and reciprocal trade. So important. These 2 words, fairness and reciprocity, are an open invitation to every country that seeks to do business with the United States. And they are a firm warning to every country that cheats, breaks the rules, and engages in economic aggression like they've been doing in the past, especially in the recent past. That is why we have almost an $800 billion a year trade deficit with other nations. Unacceptable. We are going to start whittling that down, and as fast as possible. With these goals, it was my profound honor to travel on this journey as your representative. I explained to all of the world leaders and across Asia how well the United States is doing. Economic growth has been over 3% the last 2 quarters and is going higher. Unemployment is at its lowest level in 17 years. The stock market has gained trillions of dollars in value since my election and has reached record highs. We are massively increasing our military budget to historic levels. The House has just passed a nearly $700 billion defense package, and it could not come at a better time for our nation. Once again, our country is optimistic about the future, confident in our values, and proud of our history and a role in the world. I want to thank every citizen of this country for the part you have played in making this great American comeback possible. In Asia, our message was clear and well received. America is here to compete, to do business, and to defend our values and our security. We began our trip in Hawaii to pay our respects to brave American service members at Pearl Harbor and the United States Pacific Command, the guardian of our security and freedom across the Indo-Pacific region. As our country prepared to observe Veterans Day, we remembered the incredible sacrifices and courage of all of the veterans whose service has preserved our liberty and a way of life that is very special. We also thanked military families for their support for our brave servicemen and women. From Hawaii, we traveled to Japan, a crucial U.S. ally and partner in the region. Upon landing in Japan, my first act was to thank the American service members and Japanese self-defense forces, who personify the strength of our enduring alliance. Prime Minister Abe and I agreed on our absolute determination to remain united to achieve the goal of denuclearized North Korea. Shortly following our visit, Japan announced additional sanctions on 35 North Korean entities and individuals. Japan also committed to shouldering more of the burden of our common defense by reimbursing costs borne by American taxpayers, as well as by making deep investments in Japan's own military. This will include purchases of U.S. advanced capabilities, from jet fighters to missile defense, systems worth many, many billions of dollars, and jobs for the American worker. Prime Minister and I also discussed ways we can deepen our trade relationship based on the core principles of fairness and reciprocity. I am pleased that since January of this year, Japanese companies have announced investments in the United States worth more than $8 billion, 17,000 jobs. Thank you. Oh, they don't have water. That's okay. What? No, it's okay. Oh. Japanese manufacturers, Toyota and Mazda, announced that they will be opening a new plant in the United States that will create 4,000 jobs. We also signed agreements between our nations to enhance infrastructure development, increase access to affordable energy, and advance our foreign policy goals through economic investment. From Japan, we traveled to another key American ally in Asia, the Republic of Korea. My official state visit to South Korea was the first by an American president in 25 years. Speaking before the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea, I spoke the truth about the evil crimes of the North Korean regime, and I made clear that we will not allow this twisted dictatorship to hold the world hostage to nuclear blackmail. I called on every nation, including China and Russia, to unite in isolating the North Korean regime, cutting off all ties of trade and commerce until it stops its dangerous provocation on, and this is the whole key to what we're doing, on denuclearization. We have to denuclearize North Korea. We have ended the failed strategy of strategic patience, and as a result, we have already seen important progress, including tough new sanctions from the UN Council. We have a Security Council that has been with us and just about with us from the beginning. South Korea agreed to harmonize sanctions and joined the United States in sanctioning additional rogue actors whose funds have helped North Korea and North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. It's unacceptable to us. The United States welcomed the decision of President Moon to remove the payload restrictions on missiles to combat the North Korean threat. And together we reaffirmed our commitment to a campaign of maximum pressure. Like Japan, South Korea is increasing its defense contributions. During our meetings, President Moon acknowledged his desire for equitable cost sharing for the United States military forces stationed in South Korea. And I visited soldiers at Camp Humphreys, a brand new joint American-South Korean base, paid for almost entirely by the South Korean government. At that base, I discussed with the United States and South Korean military leaders both military options and readiness to respond to North Korean provocation or offensive actions. During our visit, President Moon and I also discussed America's commitment to reducing our trade deficit with South Korea. At my discretion and direction, we are currently renegotiating the disastrous U.S.-Korea trade agreement signed under the previous administration. It has been a disaster for the United States. Last week, 42 South Korean companies announced their intent to invest in projects worth more than $17 billion in the United States, and 24 companies announced plans to purchase $58 billion in American goods and services. From South Korea, Melania and I traveled to China, where, as in Japan and South Korea, we were greatly honored by the splendor of our reception. Our trip included the first official dinner held for a foreign leader in the Forbidden City since the founding of the modern China, where we enjoyed a very productive evening hosted by President Xi and his wonderful wife, Madame Peng. During our visit, President Xi pledged to faithfully implement United Nations Security Council resolutions on North Korea and to use his great economic influence over the regime to achieve our common goal of a denuclearized Korean peninsula. President Xi recognizes that a nuclear North Korea is a grave threat to China, and we agree that we would not accept a so-called freeze-for-freeze agreement like those that have consistently failed in the past. We made that time is running out, and we made it clear, and all options remain on the table. I also had a very candid conversation with President Xi about the need to reduce our staggering trade deficit with China and for our trading relationship to be conducted on a truly fair and equitable basis. We can no longer tolerate unfair trading practices that steal American jobs, wealth, and intellectual property. The days of the United States being taken advantage of are over. In China, we also announced $250 billion worth in trade investment deals that will create jobs in the United States. From China, I flew to the city of Da Nang in Vietnam to attend the leaders' meeting for APEC, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. There, I spoke to a major gathering of business leaders where I reminded the world of America's historic role in the Pacific as a force for freedom and for peace. Standing on this proud history, I offered our vision for robust trading relationships in which Indo-Pacific nations can all prosper and grow together. I announced that the United States is ready to make bilateral trade deals with any nation in the region that wants to be our partner in fair and reciprocal trade. We will never again turn a blind eye to trading abuses, to cheating, economic aggression, or anything else from countries that profess a belief in open trade but do not follow the rules or live by its principles themselves. No international trading organization can function if members are allowed to exploit the openness of others for unfair economic gain. Trade abuses harm the United States and its workers, but no more. No more. We will take every trade action necessary to achieve the fair and reciprocal treatment that the United States has offered to the rest of the world for decades. My message has resonated. The 21 APEC leaders, for the first time ever, recognize the importance of fair and reciprocal trade, recognize the need to address unfair trade practices, and acknowledge that the WTO is in strong need of reform. These leaders also noted that countries must do a better job following the rules to which they agree. I also made very clear that the United States will promote a free and open Indo-Pacific in which nations enjoy the independence and respect they deserve. In Vietnam, during a state visit in Hanoi, I also met with President Quan and Prime Minister Phuc to discuss the growing friendship between our countries. Our Vietnamese partners are taking new actions to enforce sanctions on North Korea. In addition, we committed to expand trade and investment between our countries, and we pledged to address the imbalances. I am particularly pleased that the United States and Vietnam recently announced $12 billion in commercial agreements, which will include $10 billion in U.S. content. Finally, I visited the Philippines, where I met with numerous world leaders at the U.S., ASEAN, and East Asia summits. At ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, we made it clear that no one owns the ocean. Freedom of navigation and overflight are critical to the security and prosperity of all nations. I also met with the prime ministers of India, Australia, and Japan to discuss our shared commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. During our visit, President Duarte of the Philippines thanked the American people and our armed forces for supporting the recent liberation of Marawi from ISIS. We pledged to strengthen and deepen our long-standing alliance. At the East Asia Summit, the United States negotiated and signed 4 important leader statements on the use of chemical weapons, money laundering, poverty alleviation, and countering terrorist propaganda and financing. And crucially, at both summits and throughout the trip, we asked all nations to support our campaign of maximum pressure for North Korean denuclearization. And they are responding by cutting trade with North Korea, restricting financial ties to the regime, and expelling North Korean diplomats and workers. Over the last 2 weeks, we have made historic strides in reasserting American leadership, restoring American security, and reawakening American confidence. Everywhere we went, I reaffirmed our vision for cooperation between proud, independent, and sovereign countries. And I made clear that the United States will be a reliable friend, a strong partner, and a powerful advocate for its own citizens. The momentum from our trip will launch us on our continued effort to accomplish the 3 core objectives I outlined: to unite the world against North Korean nuclear threat, to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific region, and to advance fair and reciprocal economic relations with our trading partners and allies in the region. We have established a new framework for trade that will ensure reciprocity through enforcement actions, reform of international organizations, and new fair trade deals that benefit the United States and our partners. And we have laid out a pathway toward peace and security in our world, where sovereign nations can thrive, flourish, and prosper side by side. This is our beautiful vision for the future. This is a future where this vision, this dream, is only possible if America is strong, proud, and free. As long as we are true to ourselves, faithful to our founding, and loyal to our citizens, then there is no task too great, no dream too large, no goal beyond our reach. My fellow citizens, America is back, and the future has never looked brighter. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Do you want to resign, Mr. President? Do you believe his accusers?
That is President Trump's statement from the White House about his Asian trip. He talked about the different stops on his Asian trip, different things he had said and discussed on his Asian trip, and different progress that he thought was made to promote America's interest on the Asian trip. This is the post show for President Trump's statement on the Asian trip. I am Steve Lookner. This is Right Side Broadcasting. We bring you all of President Trump's events and lots of other news as well. If you know if you ever watch when we cover the presidential rallies, we show you the whole rally. We don't edit the speeches. We show you all the speeches at the rallies. We talk to people before and after, and we just bring you all of President Trump's events. We don't have an agenda on them. We want you to see all of them and also have an ability to give feedback on them. So write to me. What did you think about the president's statement? Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. I'm going to read your comments on the air now about what you thought about the president's statement. Want to say a quick thank you to Jerry OOG and Derek on Fire, who made a couple donations to Right Side Broadcasting. We are viewer supported, so if you like our coverage and you want to donate, you can go to the bottom of the YouTube chat and click on the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. But we're going to read your comments right now. Write to me on Twitter, @Lookner. What did you think of the speech? Anything you especially liked? Anything you didn't like? Anything you wanted to be there? President Trump hit a lot of the themes that he'd been talking about during his Asian trip. He talked about how he talked to China about North Korea and has told them that, he said him and China, the U.S. and China agree that time is running out for North Korea. All options are on the table. President Trump talked about how he thought that in the past there were, he said, he said on the world stage we had situations that were inherited from past administrations, mistakes born of indifference and neglect or naive thinking and misguided judgment. And he said he is now pushing for fair trade deals with different countries. He said he's open to bilateral trade deals as long as they're fair with various countries. And this is stuff he said on his Asian trip to the countries as well. What else did he talk about? He said we will never again turn a blind eye to cheating, unfair trade practices, abuses, and says my message has resonated. So a lot of different things he said kind of summed up the whole Asian trip. We didn't know if he was going to be announcing anything new. I thought, because he had tweeted out that he was going to be making a major statement from the White House when he returned. So this might have been all he was talking about. Maybe he meant a major statement about the Asian trip. I'm not sure if there's some other major statement, perhaps with a new announcement to come. But I'm not sure about that. But anyways, want to hear what you have to say. So write to me. What did you think of of President Trump's statement? Write to me at @Lookner, and I will read your comments on the air. Let's see. A couple of you wrote in. Reagan Better said he thought the speech was much more or less a lecture from a professor and not any new information. Now, I'm not sure if there was supposed to be new information in the statement, but thank you, Reagan Better, for writing in. Let's see here. Also, one other quick thing. President Trump did take several drinks of water during the speech. He was thirsty, and this has become like this huge thing on Twitter. If you search on Twitter, you will find a million tweets about water. I posted because I thought I said it was free advertising for Fiji water. But I'll show. If you missed it, you probably saw it. But if you missed it, you came to us late. Here's the shot of him drinking Fiji water. But just check this out. If you search Trump water, you get all these memes and comments, and some are snarky and some are not. So feel free to do all those searches and find all that stuff yourself. But we're taking your comments on the air. What did you think about the president's speech? Sarah Holman said, would you give a little review of the speech? We missed it. Well, I guess you missed the little review I just gave you a couple of minutes ago, Sarah. He basically just talked about the different countries he went to and the different themes he emphasized on his trip. Things he said on his trip that he also said today were, we're not going to take unfair trade anymore. He's open to bilateral deals with countries that are fair. He's putting America first. He wants cooperation with countries on North Korea, and he said he emphasized that to different countries. He said both on the trip and in the speech, he said he had made known to China that he was concerned about their encroachments into the South China Sea, and he wants I think I wrote down some specific statement he said about this, if I can find it here in my notes. But he definitely wants. He definitely expressed his concerns over China's encroachment, and he wants that area, that region, to be a region where states have their independence and not be encroached on. So he's talked about some of that stuff as well. So a lot of the. For example, he said in a veiled admonition to China, he said he made it clear to China that no nation owns the ocean when it comes to free navigation and overflight. So really basically summed up the trip and summed up a lot of the things he was pushing for on the trip. That I think is what he did. Carl Peterson made a donation. and said, thank you for the great coverage, RSBN, donate if you can. Thank you, Carl, very much. And I think I missed one other donation too. Richard Aarons gave a donation and said, thank you, RSBN, keep up the great coverage. MAGA, thank you guys for donating. We appreciate the donations. Those are just what keeps us on the air. So we love bringing the news to you in an agenda-free way, reading your comments on the air. So if you like our coverage, go to the bottom of the YouTube chat, click on the $ to donate, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Thanks so much to the moderators who've been with us today for the last couple broadcasts. We have in the YouTube chat room, we got Barbara Braley, we got JC, I know Real Frank was there, Guinevere is there, Pam C is there, and Common Sense and Gleno on the website. And Jude is there. I want to get to some more of your comments. Write to me. Let me know what you thought of President Trump's speech. At Lookner on Twitter is where you can find me. Deborah Carpenter writes, I love Fiji water. My standard is Evian. Linda Belk writes in 2 words, strong presidential. Eddie writes in, was hoping he would announce Sessions firing. Yeah, no new announcements in this speech. Pretty much just a summing up of the themes that he focused on his Asian trip, and he said it was a successful trip. Another thing he mentioned is that Japan and South Korea are both increasing their defense contributions, which is something he wants to happen. I Heart Trump and America said, hi, Steve. I thought President Trump's statement and speeches in Asia and trade deals were great. On Asia and trade deals were great. He is taking the country out of debate. When Trump became president, he had a big plate of mess in front of him. He is fixing it. Hashtag MAGA. Hugh Daly says, Trump's speech was as predicted. Nothing wrong about that when it's exactly what he promised he'd do. Slouch the Four says, what do you think of Trump's tone on China changing? Well, President Trump has, I don't know if what you might be referring to is like, for example, he said in the speech, he said he didn't want China to encroach on the South China Sea. He was concerned with how they were doing that. And the specific statement, he said, no nation owns the ocean when it comes to free navigation and overflight. He also said he said to China that time is running out on North Korea. But and I think maybe you're saying, well, he's saying that, but at the same time, he's in the past been kind of friendly toward China. I think there's always been a bit of both with President Trump when it comes to China. When he went on his trip to see President Xi, he was very praiseworthy of President Xi. He didn't insist on taking a question during the joint statement with President Xi, which is something President Xi did not want him to take questions. So, and he seemed, I don't know if deferential is the right word, but respectful and appreciative of President Xi, and he didn't, there were no big calling out of President Xi on human rights or anything. So there's always been this kind of thing with President Trump and China, at least as I've seen, where on the one hand, he praises President Xi and wants a good relationship with them and is respectful towards them. But at the same time, he does make clear that there are certain issues on North Korea, on South China Sea, on unfair trade, where he feels that they could do better on. And so you kind of always have a bit of both. You've had always a bit of both with President Trump on China. Now, some people, of course, think he should be more negative on China, and others say, no, we want a good relationship with them. We need their help on North Korea. So there's different schools of thought, different assessments of how President Trump has been doing in his China policy. Gene Anderson writes in, I'm just happy the president is safely home. I watched on Right Side because I couldn't handle the negativity on cable or even on Fox. Thank you for doing this for us. You're welcome, Gene. We don't have an agenda here at Right Side. We're not going to sit here and pontificate on whether we like somebody or don't like somebody or that kind of thing. We'll talk about different issues and different arguments, but we really let you decide stuff. We think there's a lot of agendas in a lot of different ways in the media, and we want to be just a place you can go that's not going to be constantly pushing an agenda on you. So, and if you do like that coverage, feel free to donate, because it's your donations that allow us to do this, to allow us to stay independent and stay on the air. You can donate by going to the bottom of the YouTube chat and clicking on the $, or go to rsbn.tv/donate. And we're taking your comments here. Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Let's see here. Sweet Sinner says, you're awesome, Steve. Thank you, Sweet Sinner. I don't see what the big deal is with him drinking water. Everyone gets thirsty. Besides, he could be drinking worse things than water. LOL. Love you, Steve, and RSBN Network. Thank you, Sweet Sinner, for writing in. Troy Hudson says, thanks, Steve. As for the speech, great news on Little Kim. While war is bad in case of North Korea, we can never allow a nuclear North Korea. If he crosses the line again, we must teach Kim a lesson. Now, if we do act, we must give control to the South Koreans, keeping China in check. Zach LaFleur says, do you think he'll respond to North Korea's decision to sentence him to death? I saw a little report about this, Zach. Let me see if I can get this up on the screen here. So here's a report from the Daily Wire. North Korea, Trump sentenced to death. On Wednesday, the James Bond-like war of words between President Trump and Kim Jong-un's North Korea regime continued unabated, with North Korean state media stating Trump has been sentenced to death by the Korean people. An op-ed in the North Korean newspaper Rodong Sinmun said, he should know that he is just a hideous criminal sentenced to death by the Korean people. He will be forced to pay dearly for his blasphemy any moment. The Korean people will regard the face of Trump as a symbol of wolf-like U.S. imperialism and as a target of merciless retaliation and send him to the hell he likes so much to tout. So that was from North Korea today, North Korean media, state media. Do I think he'll respond to that, Zach asked. I don't think he'll respond specifically to it. He hasn't really responded to specific things in the past. But he'll certainly, I think, keep talking about North Korea and how he considers it a grave threat, and probably still make remarks specifically about Kim Jong-un too, who he referred to, who he implied was short and fat in a tweet a few days ago. Let's see. God Bless USA said, I listened to the president talk. At least now we know what he was really doing there in the best interest of the USA and not the mainstream media version of what they want us to know, not know. You know, it is possible, God Bless USA, that he did just want to get his version of the trip out there. Maybe, you know, they just thought, you know, it's all you've seen of it has been filtered through the media, and he just wanted to explain the different stops and what he was doing on the different stops. Bliss Girl made a donation of $20. Thank you so much, Bliss Girl. That's really kind of you. We very much appreciate it. Thanks. Sarah Holman says, thanks, Steve. Things were a bit chaotic here for the start of your broadcast. No problem, Sarah. Gwen 100% Trump says Bush/Barack threw world into free fall. Trump with global leaders setting globe upright. Watching international reporting, excitement was evident. Europe and Mexico had better get it together or they'll be left behind. Thank you to the administration. John Stanton writes in, Trump is getting the world's leaders to put pressure on North Korean financial business leaders to turn on Kim. Darren Giesler says YouTube keeps freezing. Now, Darren, I've had YouTube on here and it's not freezing for me. If you're having issues with your YouTube, you might want to try refreshing your browser. Sometimes that can help the YouTube issues. Kate Deplorable says the water in the Capitol is literally poison. They only drink bottled water. I don't know about the Capitol water being poisoned, but I appreciate you writing in, Kate. Huck writes in, the trade talks with Japan were huge. I Heart Trump in America says Trump is a great businessman. He is taking the U.S. out of debt. Plus, Trump has Trump Towers in Asia. Google search that. It's a fact. And your show is the coolest. Love you, Steve. Love Fiji water. And thanks for reading my comments. Let's see here. Deplorable Infidel sent me a post from Stefan Molyneux from today that said 2 genders, 2 scoops, 2 sips, 2 terms. So Deplorable Infidel wanted you guys that to be shared with you guys. Kate Deplorable says he's jet lagged and he's been to a bunch of Asian countries, some tropical. I've gotten sick overseas too. So you think maybe he was sick? I was thinking he might be sick when he was taking the sips of water. If you have other comments here about President Trump's statement today about his Asian trip, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. We'll be on for a few more minutes here. We cover breaking news all the time. If there's more breaking news today, we will definitely come on and talk about it. So to be sure you get informed when we're coming on the air and covering news, subscribe to us on YouTube and click on the notifications bell so you get notified. Also, we love when you like and share our videos on YouTube and Facebook. We're a small company. We can't even afford to advertise. So when you share our videos on Facebook and you like them on YouTube, that really helps get the word out about Right Side and lets people know, hey, they're doing this agenda-free coverage over there. So we much appreciate that. Ooh, I forgot to check my email. Greg writes in, major statement as in more than a tweet or a short statement. So you're saying, Greg, this was he considered this a major statement. You think, Greg, this was the major statement President Trump was saying he was going to give, and by major he means like more than a short statement. It was, what was it, about 15 minutes or so? So it was a long time. He says, Greg also says, speaking of water, Evian spelled backwards is naive. I wonder, is that intentional? I don't know. Liz Bellin says, what was the major announcement about North Korea? Oh, okay. That we have to fix that. We're being fake news. We're being fake news. So we had heard a rumor that the announcement was going to be on North Korea. Well, he did talk about North Korea during the speech. A significant amount of time, but there was no. We'll adjust this. I think we'll probably change the title to major statement on Asia trip. It wasn't clear what exactly the announcement was going to be on. He did talk about North Korea, but so there was no new announcement on North Korea. He did say that he was working with. He talked to a lot of countries on the Asia trip about North Korea. Said talked to China especially about it. Said China agreed with him that the time was running out for North Korea. So. But I see what you're saying about the title, so we'll probably adjust the title of this after the video. Shiet Mang writes in, I'm waiting to see if Fuji Water releases a statement about the president using their product. I'm sure they're panicking right now. Yeah, I was wondering, I posted a tweet that said, I'll show this again actually. I posted a tweet that this was free advertising for Fuji Water. But another way of looking at this is, Fuji might not, maybe Fuji has a liberal base of customers and they're like, well, we don't necessarily want to be associated with President Trump. I don't know. So that's what I posted. That's when President Trump was drinking from the Fuji water. Sorry, I'm saying Fiji water. It was Fuji in the email and I just never corrected it. Fiji water, of course. So the president was drinking Fiji water, but Fiji water, of course, might, who knows? I don't know what their customer base is like. I mean, it's a pretty wide customer base. But good question, Shiet Mang. Will we hear anything from Fiji water about this? Let's check Fiji water's Twitter account. Nope, their last tweet is from November 1st. It says, heaven is a place on earth and it has the best water. I wonder if people have been commenting on this tweet about the president. No, nobody made a comment yet here about it, about President Trump. Anyways. Luke writes in, hi, Steve. How is it that you mainly source liberal and left-leaning news sites like Breaking 911, CNN, ABC, NBC? Why aren't you reporting about the stepson of the latest Roy Moore accuser came out saying that she is lying? Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Lucas, for writing in. So, Lucas, I quote sources that I think are reliable and stories I think are reliable. So I don't literally just say, hey, I'm going to quote everything from this source. I look at a bunch of different sources, but there are certain sources I trust and certain stories I trust, and I try to bring you what, in my judgment, are the, are trustworthy stories. Now, and there can be stories in outlets like the New York Times and the Washington Post I won't report on or whatever. In terms on topics, there are a lot more topics out there than we can actually cover here. So we kind of have to pick and choose, but you're always welcome to suggest topics for us to cover. And you can write to us at feedback@rsbn.tv, feedback@rsbn.tv, and let us know what you want to hear us cover. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there and we'd love to hear from you as to certain stories you'd like to, maybe there's something that you guys want us to cover and it wasn't on our radar and you send it in. So please let us know. Thank you for writing in, Luca. Ex-con wrote in, great to not hear the president say, that's not us, that's not who we are, yada, yada, yada. Doug Niples writes in, people are piling on for the water because he made fun of Rubio for drinking water during the campaign. Yeah, I've seen some of those posts about President Trump. I wonder if I can find an article about the Trump-Rubio comments, because I remember him doing it, but not exactly. Yeah, so Washington Examiner says, here it is. So some people were retweeting this. This is President Trump during the campaign making fun of Rubio. So let me just show you. This is getting tweeted a lot. This is somebody named Philip Bump who posted it, but let's see if I can play this for you. And there's also the Marco Rubio water break. That's what he was referring to there. So anyways, if you want to read about the great water debate, there's plenty of that about that on Twitter. But thank you, Doug Niples, for pointing out that that is what some people are talking about on Twitter. Tiffany Haddon writes, and I am disappointed that President Trump didn't make any indirect comments about the infamous Q or anything that is about to happen big in the U.S. I don't know what you mean by the infamous Q. Maybe I should know this. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Okay, I think I am caught up to everybody's messages. Oh, Gene Anderson says you just donated, but we can't see the ones on PayPal. No donation feature here on my Apple TV. Had to use my phone to donate. So we usually see the PayPal donations after the broadcast, but I'll take a quick look there if I can call it up now. Maybe I can access it. Let's see. So we got donation. We got a donation from Gene Anderson. Thank you, Gene. And we also got a donation from Harvey Kipps. Harvey Kipps and Gene Anderson. We really appreciate those donations. Thank you so much. Very nice of you. Let's see. God Bless USA replied to my tweet about the food Fiji water. Oh my God, President Trump talk about what he said on this trip, and you people are fixated on the brand of water. I get the stuff at my local gas station. Good grief, nitpick on water, but forget the message. We didn't forget the message here. We've been a whole post show on the speech. We've only talked about the water as a very small part of this post show. Bill DeWall writes, Fiji water. He says, he or she says, nowhere in Fiji's water's glossy marketing materials will you find reference to the typhoid outbreaks that plague Fijians because of the island's faulty water supplies, the corporate entities that Fiji Water has set up in tax havens like the Cayman Islands and Luxembourg, or the fact that its signature bottle is made from Chinese plastic in a diesel-fueled plant and hauled thousands of miles. Bill DeWall. Now, I can't confirm any of that information. That's from our viewer, Bill DeWall. Letting you know that's Bill DeWall's view. Thank you, Bill DeWall, for writing in. I would have to do research on all of that to confirm any of that. I know nothing about how Fiji Water's manufacturing goes and how it affects the country of Fiji. Fiji's a country, correct? I believe. I'll look that up. Yes, it is a country. So there. Okay. So, Andrew Sova says, so you're saying CNN is trustworthy? I'm annoying hearing you discuss them. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I will frequently point out when CNN or other outlets say stuff that I think is not true or misleading. So all I'm saying is I take the stories, specific stories on the face of them, and I certainly think there are times when CNN or the Washington Post or New York Times put out a well-sourced story that I think is perfectly good and worthwhile to reference. So I look at the stories and take them as it comes. But I will not say blanket for any news organization. Everything they do is trustworthy. I need to, certainly some are more trustworthy than others, but I need to look at the exact story and see what the sourcing is in the exact story. Okay, I think at this point we are going to wrap up the stream. We've gotten to your comments. Thank you so much for joining us today for this stream. Thanks so much to Jake Seals for producing this stream. Really appreciate it. And if you want to know when we're coming on the air in the future with breaking news videos, we do them all the time. We post news videos all the time about all sorts of different topics. Yesterday we did a stream about the Tampa serial killer. We covered the last couple of days we covered a lot of different stuff. We covered the UCLA players press conference this morning. So if you want to know when we're coming on the air, subscribe to us on YouTube. At Lookner, that's my Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube, and then click the notifications bell when you subscribe so you get notifications. You can follow us on Facebook at Right Side Broadcasting. On Twitter, we're at RSB Network. I am on Twitter at Lookner. I post about breaking news all the time, so follow me there if you like breaking news. Also, thank you so much to everybody who donated. We so appreciate that. Those donations keep us on the air. If you want to donate to Right Side Broadcasting and support our agenda-free news coverage as an alternative to the mainstream media, go to the bottom of the YouTube chat and click on the $ there, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. You can even you can even get free stuff like this Right Side mug by setting up a monthly donation at rsbn.tv/donate. Thank you to everybody in the chat room, the moderators, JC, Guinevere, Jude, Common Sense and Gleno on the website, also in the YouTube, Barbara Braley, Real Frank, all of you out there, Jude, and everybody. Thanks for saying thanks, everybody in the chat room. We got Jan Wood, Thelma, Whiskey Bay, Lena, Elysia, Kirk Wasson, Light Switch, Shiet Mang, Jason Thornton was there, 9 Fathoms. Yeah, so thank you all of you guys for watching, and thank you all of you for writing in your comments during the broadcast. We always like to hear from you what you're thinking about President Trump and about the news in general. So love when you write in and we can read your comments on the air. That's going to wrap it up for now. Thank you. And again, thanks in the chat room. A couple more thank yous to Jamie B., Hugh Daly, Jeff Jones, Sons of Patriarchy, Music World, and all the rest of you there. All right, we're wrapping it up now. If there's big news later today, we'll see you later today with big news. Keep an eye on us, Right Side Broadcasting. But for now, thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you soon.